Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news, and it's big news around this development of whether Manchester United could in fact sell. The Athletic have done a very interesting article this morning, which we will talk about, of course. And also we've got a little bit around, look, ultimately, what does this do for Ruben Amorim? What does this do for the team? There's some very interesting statements, well, not statements, information I've gleaned from the financial side of things in relation to Man United are a publicly listed company on the stock exchange. They cannot just let this lie. And what I mean is they cannot lie. So some people have said, well, if Man United's up for sale, then they need to tell the world because it could influence stock price. They also need to tell the world if it's not for sale. For example, this is what The Athletic are saying. The Glazers might consider selling Man United before 2027 to maximise returns. Potential buyers include Qatar, UAE, Saudi interest despite denials, and private equity firms. So the ball is rolling already. And when you look at the Manchester United share price, we had a low point around sort of April time where the share price was sort of hovering around $14. For the last few weeks, it's been hovering around $15. In the last few days, it's nearly at $16. So there is already market manipulation going on. And they do look at these things and go, look, you have a responsibility as a business to be clear and not manipulate the market. So there is a strong amount of movement in the price of Man United shares based around potential sale. Now, there needs to be a statement from Manchester United as to whether they are for sale or whether they're not, because otherwise they're breaking the rules. They're quite simple on this. This is a complex question, but Manchester United, as a publicly listed company on the New York Stock Exchange, is subject to US security laws and rules. And while the UK's takeover code also has significant influence on any potential change of control, the general answer is there may be required to respond if the rumours are causing unusual market activity or can be directly attributed to the company or its insiders. So basically, our share price is going up. There's no reason for it to go up. We're 10th in the league. We're not in Europe. We're not about to buy, Mbappe. The price of our shares are going up. And they've been going up for 48 hours, and we all know why they're going up. So the club do need to do something because this is starting to develop even further. And the Athletic article, which I'm going to read out to you, is only going to make it worse. Now, how this impacts on Amorim and the team, I want to discuss because I don't think it provides stability, whether you think that there is any stability now or not. I think that that's very, very important. But look, let me list out what the Athletic have basically said, because there's quite a bit to go through here. And I think just hold on to what I've just said there about some people are professing to be in the know, going, we're clearly not for sale because we would have to tell the stock exchange that we're for sale. But flip it around. If we're not for sale, we also need to make a statement that we're not for sale because the share price is being manipulated by this and we're fully aware of it. At the end of the day, maybe we're not for sale. Maybe the Glazers and Sir Jim are sat there going, we're not for sale, and look at the share price going up. The New York Stock Exchange would look at that and go, you are skirting very close to the edge because it's 48 hours now. You've not denied it. Your share price is going up. That is making your club more valuable. Where is your statement to say you're not for sale? And I think that is the way I would look at it. But look, this is from The Athletic. Let's pick the pips out of this. Man United's executive committee recently convened in Switzerland amid a somewhat positive atmosphere following a win over Sunderland. This was temporarily alleviated pressure on the head coach Amorim. However, co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe publicly affirmed that Amorim has 3 years to prove his worth. The calm, however, was short-lived when Saudi official Turki Al-Sheikh posted on X. This has caused widespread speculation about the Glazers' ownership and led to fans being hopeful that there could be a change of ownership. The club's structure shares bollocks and all that lot. Not really interested in that. However, Radcliffe's Ineos only owns 29% of shares, and the agreement includes drag-along rights effective from August 2025, allowing the Glazers to compel Sir Jim Ratcliffe to join a full sale, but any deal before February 2027 must exceed the $33 per share Ratcliffe paid to ensure he recoups his investment. A potential sale could value United at a minimum of 5.7 billion before 2027, surpassing Chelsea's record. Though the current share price is around $16, valuing the club at 2.8 billion. Post 2027, Ratcliffe loses his price guarantee, potentially lowering the deal threshold. The Glazers might favour selling to maximise returns amid upcoming debt refinancing and commercial shifts. Speculated buyers include Qatar, Sheikh Jassim, who had previously bid unsuccessfully, Saudi interest despite denials, UAE consortiums and private equity funds, though any process would be protracted due to regulatory and stakeholder complexities. To make it even more clear, this is their answer in relation to whether the Glazers would be interested in selling. Whether they have an appetite to sell or not is the several billion dollar question, but the terms of the agreement with Ratcliffe arguably make it in the family's interest to do so before February 2027. Until then, as detailed above, Ratcliffe will be guaranteed to earn at least $33 per share for his stake if dragged. The Glazers would expect at least the same for their shares, therefore raising the floor of any deal. Ratcliffe loses that 33 per share guarantee after February 2027, which would drastically lower the price that people would offer. From a buyer's perspective, why would you pay a premium now if you could do so in 18 months, I suppose? Of course, if the Glazers value United at more than $33 per share, then Ratcliffe's clause makes little difference. So, look, The Athletic are now writing about this and they're not closing the door on it. Effectively, where we are this morning, I think, is that I'm stunned there has been no public denial officially from Manchester United. They're playing with fire now. They're lawfully playing with fire because it's 48 hours, the share price is going up, there's manipulation in the market. I can see it, you can see it. There's a 70-cent increase on the share price in 2 days. So our share price is going up because people think we might be being sold. If the Glazers know they're not for sale, they need to say it. They need to say it. I mean, that's not football, that's finance. They're on very thin ice. Your share price is not going up because Bruno Fernandes is playing in the midfield and people think you're going to get in the Champions League. Your share price is going up because people think you're for sale. So we need to see some clarity here, and I expect that we will do. I'm hoping that that clarity is that the Glazers may say, look, we might be up for sale. We might be open to offers. We don't know. In which case, I think what The Athletic are writing is clarity on what other people have been writing. To sell Manchester United right now, somebody's got to pay $33 a share because that's what the agreement is with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That's about 5.8 billion. If they wait till February 27, that could come down to the current value of a share, which is around $17 per share. What we're forgetting here is if the Glazers want to sell and try and get more money for their buck, they've got to do it now because February 27 is actually only 18 months away and it will take a year to do a sale. So if you want to sell, you've got to start doing it now because if you get into the last year, people will go, this is going to take me a year, and in February 27, I can get it for cheaper anyway. So we're sort of in that avenue now, where if the Glazers want to sell before February 27, where the share price comes down, they need to get moving now. And if they don't, they're not going to get as much money. But look, they might look at it and go, we're in it for the long term. But look, some very financial heavy conversation there, but ultimately, we're still not getting a denial. The share price is going up. That's market manipulation in some people's eyes, if you know you're not for sale. So I don't think Man United can sit there silently. I really don't. I think there has to be some public statement that comes out very, very, very soon because that share price is going up and that, you know, technically could be seen as market manipulation because the only reason it's going up is because people think it's for sale. I repeat what I said last night. I think if the Glazers want to sell at any point in the next 10 years, now is the time to do it because I don't think Man United's going up in value at all. I think it's coming down in value. And that's why our share price has been so low. Let's wait and see what happens. I'm very, very interested. But I also think the second part to this is that we live today. We don't live tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? We live today. What does this actually do for Manchester United if you are a fan of, well, if you're a fan of like Manchester United and you're looking at it and going, we've got Liverpool next week. We've got some really difficult games to come. Because on the one hand, it's out of order. You'd almost turn up at Carrington and expect an out of order sign to be there, which funnily enough is the thumbnail sign, because we are out of order, aren't we? We're out of order in relation to things aren't working the way they want me to be, and we're also out of order in relation to the messages we send. I mean, as I said, on Thursday, you've got an interview with Sir Jim Radcliffe that lands on Tuesday saying, end of the day, you know, Ruben's a great guy and we're going to give him 3 years and it's not a light switch and, you know, that's what we're going to do. Wednesday morning, the club might be for sale. And you'd laugh if you don't cry. You got this guy who's meant to be rebuilding Man United talking about 3-year plans, and then within 24 hours, you've just been completely and utterly undermined because somebody's talking about the club being for sale. And what does this mean for Ruben Amorim? What does this mean for the team? Maybe this is what Ruben Amorim was alluding to a few weeks ago when he spoke about you don't know the half of the problems that have been going on behind the scenes. Maybe he is talking about that. Because I tell you what, we might be sat here as Man United fans going, I hope we're up for sale. Let's hope change is coming again. But if you're Omar Barada, you're Jason Wilcox, you're Ruben Amorim, you're Sir Jim Radcliffe, if this club gets sold, you're probably out of a job. I don't think new owners are going to come in and go, I want to keep Omar Barada, I want to keep Jason Wilcox, maybe not even Ruben Amorim. So, you know, this is not just, you know, from Ruben Amorim's point of view, this is not just a ridiculously hard job that everybody has failed at for the last decade. You've also got all this other stuff, which in some ways he might be quite happy about, because if we didn't have this talk, we'd have people talking about whether he should get 3 years, his win ratio, Liverpool, etc. This takes the focus off him, but technically, you'd also be thinking, well, if we are about to embark on a sale, that's the end of my rebuild, because they ain't going to spend on a rebuild if they're selling the club. So it's all like positives, negatives. I just think it's Man United in crisis again, isn't it? It's always the same. And whatever happens at this point, you sort of look at it and you go, well, if we do go down the pathway of being up for sale, who's going to buy us? How long is it going to take? And if we don't go down the pathway of who's for sale, we're stuck with what we've got. It's a confusing time. I still obviously have an individual opinion, and my individual opinion is that 2 years ago, I wanted the debt gone. I wanted one owner to rule us, and I wanted them to be obsessed about Man United being good on the pitch. Couldn't give a toss about everything else. We didn't get that. So I still sit here today going, if you're offering me that, I'll take it. Maybe sticking with what we've got is stability, maybe, whatever that is. But I'd knock the house down and start again easily. But look, if you're tuning in a little bit late or you want a little bit of a summary of what we're talking about, I think the Athletic article is very, very interesting, saying that now could well be the time for the Glazers to sell. And if they wait till February 27, then, you know, the share price will drop. And the price they can demand for Manchester United is going to drop. And I think you basically got to look at it and go, is Man United worth more today than it will be in February 27? And that, my friends, is the big question. If you sell today, you have to get around 5.8 billion because the share price has to be $33 a share, because that's what Sir Jim Radcliffe has to get as part of the deal they did with Sir Jim. So anybody that wants to buy the club at the moment, you can almost go, we are for sale, but it's got to be 5.8 billion because that's the rules of the Sir Jim Radcliffe share price deal that we did. If they wait till February 27, that becomes redundant and people can offer what they think. And then, well, our share price at the moment is actually $16, which is nearly half of what Sir Jim would get. So you're going to get a less price in February 27 unless United are doing really well on the pitch and the stadium's being built and everything looks like we're going to catch up with everybody else. Personally, I don't think that in 18 months we're going to be in a much better situation than we are now. We might be. In 18 months, maybe things start to work under Amorim. Maybe we start climbing the league. Maybe we're in the top 4. Maybe we've got a good midfield. Maybe everything's fine. But on the other hand, in 18 months, we might have sacked another manager, which will cost us money. We might be going through another rebuild that they can't fund. And we might have fucked up another season. Because let's not forget, February 27 is actually next season. As weird as that sounds, February 27 is the middle of next season. So if this season's already bordering on a write-off, what's next season? So I think, as I said last night, the time is now to sell. And also, the time is now to confirm it because, as I said at the start of the video, quite rightly, a few people said this week that if Man United was up for sale, the New York Stock Exchange would have to be informed as part of their rules because we're a publicly listed company. Flip side of that, you've also got to clarify that you're not for sale because that's the same thing. If the club's up for sale, you have to tell the New York Stock Exchange because people will be buying shares. So you have to publicly say it's for sale, otherwise it's stock manipulation. But if you're not for sale, and there's rumours that you are for sale, you also have to come out and say it's not for sale because, as we know, the share price is going up. So, look, I suspect we're going to get some clarity. And also, the great thing about the UK is the Sunday papers are different to the midweek papers, so there'll be different journalists working on this. But there we go. Let's get into some of your comments. I have got a story about Baleba to talk about this morning too, but we've got some comments coming in from you. And Nick says, I thought they wanted 8 billion to sell. What happened to the land development opportunities tied in, etc.? What are we missing? Are they in trouble? Says Nick. Man United is worth about 4 billion, I would say, in real money. But it has a potential value of between 7 and 10 if you build the stadium and you take Man United back into the Champions League. You can't demand 8 billion at the moment. That's more than double what we're factually worth. But I would buy the club if I had the money for 5.8 billion because I know I could take that club up to 7, 8, 9, 10 billion over the next few years, and it's a longer term project. But you can't be demanding 8 billion at the moment, I don't think, Nick. Marlow says it's a dog sled analogy for United. If you only replace 3 of the dogs when all the dogs are tired, they want to be able to pull that they won't be able to pull the load. And by the time you replace 3 more dogs, the previous 3 will be wasted. This is great. This is absolutely great. This is great, Marlow, and I don't think that's anything to do with the ownership. I think that's to do with the squad. You're absolutely correct. If you look at the summer, you buy Sesko, Mbeumo, Cunha, and Lamens to a certain point of view. They're new dogs to go on the sled, and they're hungry. They're not hungry because that'll make them tired, but they're hungry to succeed, but they're held back by everybody else, and they will get tired by the time you make the changes that you need to change. Where's the midfield? Exactly. So this slowly build doesn't work. Like, you can't buy attackers and then not have the midfield, because by the time you buy the midfield, the attackers might be burnt out or accustomed to failure. The mentality might have dropped, etc., etc. Sorry I've missed the last couple of days, says Ghost92. With no ownership, I'm worried that they will start to replace the new signings, ignoring the real problems. With new ownership, I think you're saying that, Ghost92. Look, new ownership, rich new ownership, nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. No players safe, no managers safe, no boardroom members safe. But that's what a reset is. And honestly, some players will survive, some players won't. But that's what a reset is. Is what we're doing under Ineos and the Glazers a reset? No, it isn't. So, to be honest with you, if the club got sold and it was a brand new owner who cleared the debt and hit the reset button, I'm not going to sit there moaning, oh, please keep this player, please. That's not a reset. They'll keep the players they want to keep and they'll get rid of the ones they don't. I would hope that the players that would be going would be the ones we always talk about and not the players we don't want to go. But that's the whole point of a reset. Morning all, might be nothing, might be something. Silence doesn't make sense either. All will be revealed soon enough, I think, says Tom Grant. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. Silence doesn't work when you're a publicly listed company. You can't just say nothing. If you're selling your house, or there's rumours that you're selling your house, it's up to you whether you say it's for sale or not. You don't have to say anything. But when you're a publicly listed company and your share price is going up, you've got to be very, very careful of that. And the club will be fully aware of that. I mean, look, we could be $16 a share at some point in the next 24, 48 hours. We were $15 a share on Tuesday before this news. So Is Porto's Victor Froholt an Odegaard regen? And if so, when will we see him in red? Also, do you actually think the Glazers will sell? I saw that Froholt got linked to somebody else this morning, and I cannot for the life of me remember who it was. I might have this information for you. Let me just very, very quickly check. Young Danish player playing for Porto, who are having a very, very good season. And he's been linked to Atletico Madrid and guess what? Brighton. What a surprise. Tyrone B says, hi Mark, didn't Qatar value the club under $30 per share? The Glazers want to. Any buyer has to know now match or exceed it. Smells like Rain Group, says Tyrone B. And Ewan Gordon, we've got to read yours in a moment. Let me just come back here. Protests won't work, says Sarvish. This is actually time I hope we keep losing. Never manager out, but I said we should keep sacking managers until the Glazers F off. There we go. Do a show about all Ineos, Sir Jim promised, said that were true, says Aman. Thank you very much for that. And I've had this Ewan Gordon one, which I can't actually read because it's half cut off. There's a bit of change in YouTube. It's a bit annoying. I don't know much about financials and sales, says Ewan, but could we potentially get new owners by next summer, or is that just over ambitious? I mean, I'm loath to talk about it, Ewan, because I could finish this stream. Somebody very credible could come out and say the Glazers have officially said they're not selling the club for the next 10 years. That share price will tank and all this conversation will be over. We won't look like idiots because, to be honest with you, this has been going for nearly 3 days now and no one shut it down. So clearly, you know, something's being considered. But if the Glazers said they wanted to sell Manchester United on Monday, like they put it out there that they are for sale, then we would be going through the process we went through 3 years ago, where it could take 12 months for it to happen. And if you remember what happened last time, the Glazers in November 2023, was it 2023? No, 2022. November 2022, they said that they were looking for a sale or investment. It was Christmas Eve 2023. Then it was announced that Sir Jim Ratcliffe had won the race. And so it took a year. And if you remember correctly, there was, how many expressions of interest, deadlines did they have? There was bids in at a certain point, second bids at a certain point. You know, they're not going to just go, let's sell to you. So it would take time. It would set us back again. It would be potentially, next summer's transfer window messed up. It could take time, but I suppose it's short-term pain for long-term gain again. I mean, it would piss me off massively, but I still think it would be the pathway to go on, because I'd sort of look at it and go, we've all been proved right. This Ineos thing didn't work. I mean, and that's my only reservation about this, is that I understand from the Glazers' point of view why you'd want to sell. I'd look at the relationship with Ineos and go, this is a bloody nightmare. This is devaluing the club. It's not going to get any better. We're shit on the pitch. And you could almost look at it and go, if I was the Glazers with 50% and I'd left Ineos in charge of the football side, I could go, well, look, they're saving us a load of money by sacking people. They're reducing the wage bill. But the Glazers let the wage bill go up. I don't know whether they'll be impressed with all these cuts, because they were like, we spent silly money, but we did win things, and we did, we weren't finishing outside the top sort of 7. We're now going 8th and 15th in the first reign of Ineos. They might look at it and go, we don't like this pathway, it's worse. We're being devalued and we don't see a way back. And they might go, look, we're out, we want to get out now. The problem you've got is Sir Jim Ratcliffe absolutely will not want this to happen. I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to look at it, unless I'm, I'd be stunned. But I think the Glazers might want to sell, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to be there going, no, don't do it. Let me carry on. And that might be a hard mountain to climb. Also, as well, when you think about it, it would be a huge failure on the previous sale process. I don't think the Glazers will care. That's business. You know, we tried something, it didn't work, we'll do it again. They're not going to care about their reputation in football. They have none. But Ineos have got a lot to lose. If this, you know, if the club gets sold under their feet, then they've got a lot to lose. And some people say, well, Ineos have got first refusal. I don't think Ineos want to pay 5.8 billion for Manchester United. I really don't think they want to pay 5.8 billion for Man United, and I don't think they've got the money to pay 5.8 billion. And if they do pay 5.8 billion, I don't think they've got the money to then take it to the next level anyway. So I'm watching this with great interest. It started with I feel like what's his name? Started with a kiss. It started with a tweet. Never thought it'd come to this. Well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Any chance the Labour government pulled the plug on the redevelopment, says Nick. I think we would have heard a little bit more about that, to be honest with you. I mean, look, even if Man United get the go-ahead to build the stadium, I've always said this, where does the money come from? It's still a multi-billion-pound project. Where does it come from? And I think that's, you know, a very interesting point as to... Yeah, you can talk about United. Oh my God. You know, the Manchester Evening News website, it literally is unreadable at times with pop-ups. I hate it. It's such a shit website. There was something on there I saw about the stadium. Here we go. So... Manchester United new stadium project takes step forward as facilities and pricing assessed. Man United have launched the next phase of their plans to move to a new 100,000-seater stadium adjacent to Old Trafford by asking match-going fans to complete a survey. Man United have launched the next phase of their consultation with supporters on the club's plan to build a new £2 billion, 100,000 capacity state-of-the-art stadium. After launching the bold plans in March, United have now invited fans to share their views on a range of potential stadium features, including facilities, seating and pricing options. The survey, run by commercial research company CSL, is part of United's stated commitment to place fans at the heart of planning for the Old Trafford. That's not really a step forward, is it? That's just a survey of fans. Step forward will be actually when the construction starts, I suppose. Let me just talk to you about... I'm not sorry, sitters. I'm going to block you. I've never mentioned that source, and I never will. It's crap. You're out. Glazers lets Jim sack people, bring down the wage bill, gets the plans to build a new stadium. Jim just made the club a better buy for investors, says Trishan. And Scott Page says, as long as United fans don't end up like City fans, their stadium has no atmosphere, has bought everything they got used to winning. Although I get it, I kind of like coming back from the death. Let's win. Let's start winning again, Scott, before we worry about what we might become bored of winning. Sean says, I live in the UAE and now many Emirates that grew up Man United fans but follow City out of loyalty to the ownership. The UAE by United, you'd see quite a switch in support among the locals in the region, says Sean M. And DP says, in my opinion, this was Sir Jim's and the Glazers' plan from the beginning. It's a business deal benefiting both parties. Sell and get out of our club, says DP. You might be right. I don't know. You might be right. Radon, welcome to Members Club. Thanks for getting your badge in. Really appreciate you. And UAE owners would definitely punt Barada, considering he left City. He'll be sweating buckets, says Sean M. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, look, as I said, I think you can look at this in two ways. There's the whole financial conversation that we had at the start about share price and why Glazers would sell and why something might be happening. And then there's the day-to-day thing, which is, what impact does this actually have on Ruben Amorim? What impact does this actually have on the United side? What impact does this actually have on our CEO, our director of football? You know, it's not stability, is it? And look, personally, in the long term, I think a sale and a reset is what's needed. But in the short term, there may be trouble ahead. And it's going to be very interesting. I mean, it won't be good for Ruben Amorim if for the next 6 months we're going through a sale process, because it's just more uncertainty about his future. But then again, it's not like he might be here in 6 months anyway. So, maybe it's by the by. But Yeah, I always go back to Ralph Rangnick's open heart surgery, and have we had it? And if you think we've had open heart surgery, then I don't think we've even had a bloody plaster on the wound. You know, I think I think we need open heart surgery, and if you understand what that is, then it is traumatic, and we haven't got anywhere near that. Not got anywhere near that. Do you think we'll get a statement on Monday? Look, I crave a statement. I think there will be a statement. I just fear in my natural state of cynicism that things will get worse at Man United. So Man United being up for sale would be a positive, a huge positive. I don't anticipate positives around Man United. So yeah. But let's not forget, if the Glazers do put the club up for sale, it's not like the Dubai Investment Fund or the UAE Investment Fund buys us next week. The Glazers aren't stupid. They'll run a process that they won't care. When they put the club up for sale 3 years ago, it took a year. It took over a year. They weren't thinking about how that impacts the team, how that impacts the transfer window. They're thinking about how it impacts their pocket. If they think they can earn another $500 million, they'll take as long as they need. But I suppose the February deadline of 2027 makes them have to get moving. But will definitely be put out to auction again. And we'll have to go through all the same shit of there's an American investment fund that wants to prop the Glazers up and pump a load of money in. That will be an option again. There'll be an option we like, and there'll be a couple of options we don't like. And it won't necessarily go to the option we like. You know, if the club's up for sale, there might be an investment fund, faceless American investment fund or elsewhere investment fund that goes, you can stay in power, we'll give you the $3 billion, just give us 30% and you crack on. That could still happen. So we're not necessarily out of the woods, but we want a full sale, says Warren, and that's what we do. Glazers, let's Jim. I've done that one from Trishan. Right, let me just go back to some general football news. I saw something this morning in the chat. Somebody was mentioning Baleba in January. I don't know where this has come from. I mean, I can have two guesses, but I think Baleba in January to Manchester United is probably the same as whether we're up for sale or not. I can't give you the answer, and it probably could be both. Baleba to Manchester United couldn't happen in the summer because we couldn't afford what Brighton wanted. We wanted to pay 60, they wanted 100. I would say his value is dropping, but I don't think it's going to drop by 40 million. And I'd also say Brighton are probably in a position where it doesn't massively matter to them because they're not in a relegation fight and they're not going to be. I mean, they're doing okay regardless of his form. And I think if they were going to sell him in January, teams tend to want a little bit more money in January because it's not a convenient time to sell. So what I'm saying is I don't see Brighton saying in January, oh, please take him off our hands for 50 million. I think they'll be saying they might do a deal for 70, but it's still more than we wanted to pay. We didn't want to pay any more than 60. So I don't think we'll get Baleba for 60 in January because that's a 40 million reduction on the price they wanted. You might be able to do a deal for 70, but that's still more. So I don't think we've got that amount of money to go and do that deal in January. So I'm not convinced we will get Baleba in January. I think it will be touted. You know, people have got to write stories. I get all that. But I sort of side with what Rob Dawson said yesterday on the show with Beth, that doing business in January in that area is not going to be cheap. United do not like doing business in January. I'd be more worried if I was Mainu, because if you think you're getting a loan deal, you've got no chance if we can't replace you. And I don't think we'll have the funds to replace Mainu or anybody else in January because Elliot Anderson is going to cost big money. Wharton is going to cost big money. And Baleba's still going to cost big money. Maybe not as much as what Brighton wanted, but he's still going to cost big money. I mean, I personally think if you wanted to go for anybody in January, the value is in the Bundesliga. You know, you go to Stuttgart and you say, we want Angelo Stiller. That's still very difficult because they're doing quite well in the Bundesliga, and also he's a fundamental player for them. They're in the Europa League as well. So I don't see a January transfer as straightforward as maybe some people do, if I'm being honest. Did you see what Rasmus said? I saw something. Let me see if I can find the absolute quote. I think something was said by Rasmus. I think he was asked the question, what's changed since he left Manchester United? And I think it was alluded that it was just nothing's changed. I'm just playing in a better team. And he's not wrong. I mean, Rasmus is a Man United fan. You know, he wouldn't say anything negative about Manchester United. He's liked posts of Sesko. Obviously, I've met him and know him to a certain extent. And, you know, he's a very ambitious, hard-working kid who wants to be, you know, as good as he can be, whatever that is. And he wanted to do that at Manchester United. I think there's going to be an element of disappointment that it didn't work out at Manchester United. But as we've all seen, he has been, even at Napoli, he's been liking posts of Sesko and stuff like that. So I don't think there's any resentment towards Manchester United or anybody. And he's probably right. You know, at Napoli, he is getting service that he didn't get at Man United. And it's a certain type of service as well. It's early service. Some, you know, you can point quite fairly. You know, I think it's always best to be balanced. People say we shouldn't have got rid of Rashford, but Rashford wasn't turning up. He wasn't putting the effort in. I watch him at Barcelona. He's on it. He's running everywhere. He's not standing still. At Man United, we all saw it. So sometimes environments, you've got to be balanced. I think at the end of last season, Rasmus was getting chances and his confidence was on the floor. So I wouldn't sit here and say that he wasn't, you know, he was a good player that wasn't getting any service. I think by the end of last season, like a lot of players, and there was a lot of players. I mean, look at the players in the Europa League final. They were all shit. He wasn't playing well at the end of last season, and there was service. But I think there's a different type of service going on at Napoli. I personally think United are really slow in the final third. Like, we don't move the ball quick enough. We don't put the early cross in. We don't play the early pass. And what I've seen from Napoli, especially when you've got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and is it Spinazzola at Napoli, the left back? They've been putting early balls in. Something that Martinez is really good at and we miss. They see the early pass, so the striker makes the early run and they put the ball there. I mean, De Bruyne is brilliant at it. He's been playing with Erling Haaland, like Aguero, etc. And you can see that because the early pass is coming, he's getting into the space early, he's getting the shot off early. We don't play like that to our striker. So I think he's right. If he has said that, I think he's right. I don't think much has changed. Obviously, confidence always goes up when you're scoring, but I think Napoli are just more direct in how they move the ball, like Arsenal, like Man City, like Liverpool, like Crystal Palace. There's a lot of teams in the Premier League that transition quickly. Transition's the word. We don't transition quickly. I've seen it, you've seen it. Bruno gets the ball, controls it, surveys, hits a pass. You know, McTominay used to do it at United. He doesn't do it at Napoli. Fred used to do it at United. Manu does it. Everybody does it. United players, they get the ball, they have a look, and then they pass. Other teams, it's quick. Move the ball quick. Move the ball quick. You get more space then. Yeah. And I agree with James. To transition quickly, you've got to have chemistry. And we've lacked chemistry for a long time. I've said this before. Over the last 10 years, I can't think of 10 games that we've played well. I can't. Where I've been entertained, I can't. I can think of 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there, but I can't think of 10 games. I guarantee if you're a Man City fan or you're a Liverpool fan, you can probably think over the last 10 years, you've probably got, I don't know, I'm scared to think how many, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. We just don't, Tomo says that's wrong, but it's not wrong, Tomo, because it's my opinion. Welcome to the United Stand where you can have an opinion. I genuinely think we don't play good football. And I genuinely don't think we've played good football for a very long time. I don't know what our identity is. We don't have a pattern of play. We're not an exciting team to watch. And this has transcended a decade. We don't play good football at Manchester United. We don't. We haven't played good football for years and years and years. That's not an Amorim issue. It's not a Ten Hag issue. It's not an Ollie issue. It's not a Ranić issue. It's not a Mourinho issue. It's not a Van Gaal issue. It's just transcends everything. We don't play good football. And why is that? Why is it we don't get entertained very often at Man United? Bournemouth get entertained. Bournemouth fans get entertained on the regular. Why don't we play good football at Man United? No matter who the manager is or who the players we buy, why is it we can't build chemistry and patterns? Because good football doesn't come from individuals. Good football comes from a team in sync with each other. I think it doesn't happen because we have the wrong mentalities. We have too many cliques. We have too many blame shifters. I don't think we have cohesion. I don't think we have people singing off the same sheets. I think there's too many individuals in that team. There's too many, cliques in that team. Over the last 10 years, I'm talking about, not necessarily now. I'm talking about the last 10 years collectively. I think we've had upheaval, clashes of personalities, people operating in cliques and not as a team. And I think that you can only play good football when you're all on the same page. And we haven't been on the same book. We haven't been on the same page for years and years, which is why I think building a team with the right mentalities has to be the first step forward. Definitely. How much investment do you think it will take after the sale of the club for us to be regular title winners and contenders? Also thoughts on Spurs 100 million. Well, Spurs are getting money into that club. I think they've got the right manager. They've got the right stadium. I think Spurs have always looked like a club to me that could make that step up, especially being in London. And I saw that they've got 100 million going in from their owners. So Spurs are in a healthy position and they want to stay in the Champions League. And this is what I was talking about on Tuesday about Sir Jim Radcliffe's 3-year plan. People go, oh, at last. And I go, hold on a minute. Liverpool aren't going anywhere. Arsenal aren't going anywhere. Chelsea don't want to go anywhere, neither do Man City, and now Spurs want to be there and Newcastle want to be there. That's 6 clubs already in the Champions League, pumping money in as much as they can, who want to stay there. How do we infiltrate that top 6 on just Sir Jim Radcliffe's walking plan? He's on a bloody treadmill on slow pace. It's going to be very, very difficult to infiltrate those top 6 because of what they want to do and what they're trying to do. So to answer your question, the way to infiltrate that top 6 is to try and match it, to try and be like them, to be obsessed with being in the Champions League because that puts you in the top 5. Clearance of the debt makes us far more cash rich. We are a cash rich club in relation to revenue, but we're hindered by debt. If we make £650 million a year, most of that's eaten up straight away on debt repayments and everything else. So if you can remove the debt, that means we free up more money. How much do I think Man United need spending on them on the pitch? Still between £500 million and £1 billion. You could probably bring that down a little bit if you believe in Sesko, Cunha and Mbeumo. But I think if you were a new investor, you've got to be looking to spend £500 million on that squad ASAP with the buffer of maybe needing to spend another half as well. We don't have the ownership to do that, do we? We don't. This is why I mean a reset and new ownership. People don't want to have this conversation. A lot of people do. Spurs have just pumped another 100 million in. They've got an amazing stadium. They're already in the Champions League. They've got a good squad, and now they've got a good manager. We know about Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and we know what Newcastle are trying to do. That's 6 clubs. 6. Some years it'll only be the top 4 that get in the Champions League, and there's 6 clubs that are better than us in relation to their plans. The only way we're going to get near them is by spending that £500 million to £1 billion on playing staff. And this current ownership just can't do it. They couldn't even buy a midfielder in the summer. Yeah, Radcliffe walking plan. He needs to walk off, says the Rogue. I agree. Right, fantastic show this morning. Hopefully it all made sense. Just to summarise, the one takeaway from me would be we still have no denial that Man United are up for sale. The big thing for me about this is that when you're on the New York Stock Exchange and you're up for sale, you have to tell them Absolutely, you have to tell them because it'll impact your share price and that's not legal. But I think you also have to tell them when you're not for sale because the share price is being manipulated now. It's gone up by nearly $1 in 48 hours. That's a significant increase. And the only reason for that increase is because there's talk of a sale. So the longer United allow this if I was the New York Stock Exchange, I'd be saying to Man United, you either need to say you are for sale or you're not for sale. Because by saying nothing, that share price is going up and that is stock price manipulation guaranteed. You cannot leave it there for days without saying something because your share price is going up. And if you leave it any longer, I'd be saying you've left it longer to make money out of that because you know you're not for sale. So I think they've got to do something very, very quickly. So I think we'll get the answer very, very quickly. Thank you very much. Take care. There is an 8 o'clock show tonight. Who knows? We could be back later. You know, we could get the drop at any point that they're not for sale. We could get the drop at any point that there is some truth in it. But it's all quiet on the Western Front at the moment, and the Eastern Front, and the Northern Front, and the Southern Front, and the Centre Front. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.